All right, let's talk Python. If you're learning to code, you're going to run into one thing over and over and over again: the list. It's one of the most fundamental tools in your entire toolkit. So today, we are going to break down exactly what a list is and why it's so incredibly powerful.
I mean, just think about it for a sec. Our lives are just full of lists, right? Shopping lists, playlists for the gym, to-do lists for work. We are constantly grouping things together. So it only makes sense that programming needs a way to do the exact same thing. So how does Python handle this?
Well, Python's answer is the list. And honestly, the best way to picture a list is to think of it like a magic bookshelf. It's this single, neat container where you can line up all your data, keep it in a very specific order, and here's the magic part: you can change it, rearrange it, and mess with it anytime you want. So let's stick with this bookshelf idea.
Okay, so what makes this magic bookshelf, well, magic? It really just boils down to two golden rules. Two key things that make lists so useful.
First, they're ordered. This just means the sequence you put things in actually matters. The first book you put on the shelf is always the first book. The second is always the second. Simple. And second, they are mutable. Now that's just a fancy programmer word for changeable. It means you can add new books, take old ones away, or swap them around whenever you feel like it. That flexibility is a total game changer.
Okay, enough theory. How do we actually build one of these bookshelves in our code and, start putting stuff on it?
And honestly, it's surprisingly simple. You just give your list a name. Here we're calling it My Bookshelf. Use an equal sign, and then you just pop your items inside square brackets separated by commas. And just like that, boom, our bookshelf exists, and it's already got 3 books on it. Awesome, the books are on the shelf. But what if you just want to grab the sci-fi novel? You don't want to take the whole shelf down. You just need that one specific item. How do we do that? The secret to grabbing a specific book is knowing its position, or what we call its index. But here's the single most important thing to remember. And trust me, this trips up almost every new programmer. In Python, counting starts at 0. So the first spot isn't position 1, it's position 0. The second spot is 1, the third is 2, and on and on. It feels a little weird at first, I know, but you'll get used to it fast.
So, to get our sci-fi book, we use our list's name, My Bookshelf, followed by the index number in square brackets. Since sci-fi is the second item, its index is 1. And boom, just like that, Python gives us exactly what we asked for, the string sci-fi. It's that easy. You've just pulled a specific item right off your list. Okay, grabbing one book is cool, but what if you want a whole section of books? Or what if you decide you don't like a book anymore and you want to replace it? This is where the magic part of our bookshelf really starts to shine. This move is called slicing, and it's incredibly powerful. You give it a starting index and a stopping index separated by a colon. But here's the little trick you have to remember. It grabs everything from the start index up to, but not including, the stop index. So 0, 2 really means start at index 0 and go right up until you dig to index 2. And check out our result. We get fantasy and sci-fi. Notice how history, which is at index 2, isn't included. The slice grabs everything from the start point, but stops right before the end point. This is a super common way to work with parts of your data. Now, remember that second golden rule? That lists are mutable or changeable? Well, let's see it in action. Let's say I'm not really feeling sci-fi anymore. I want a biography instead. All I have to do is target index 1 and assign it a brand new value. And look at that, the list is instantly updated. Sci-fi is gone, and biography is now sitting right there at index 1. It's this ability to change things on the fly that makes lists so incredibly dynamic. So, beyond manually changing things, Python gives us this awesome toolkit of built-in functions, or methods, that let us manage our lists even more easily. Let's look at a couple of the most common ones. So, you get a new book and want to add it to the shelf. You've got 2 main ways. The simplest is append, which just sticks the new item at the very end. This is what you'll use most of the time, like adding a new song to a playlist. But if you need precise control, you can use insert. That lets you pick the exact spot to place the new item, and it'll automatically shift everything else down to make room. Pretty cool. And it's a similar story for removing things. You can either remove a book by its title, like, hey, remove the book called History, and Python will find the first one that matches and take it out, or you can pop an item off the shelf by its position, like pop off whatever is at index 0. It's really the difference between knowing what you want to remove versus knowing where it is. All right, enough with the theory and the bookshelf analogies. Let's see how all of these pieces, creating, adding, removing, actually come together in a real-world example that you've probably even thought about building yourself.
A to-do list is the perfect example. First, we start with a totally empty list called tasks. Then we use append to add a couple of items to it. Write report, call team. Then, once we finish that first report, we can use pop 0 to remove the item at index 0. And that's it. You've literally just programmed the core logic for a task manager.
And that really brings us to the most important takeaway. What you've just learned isn't some minor feature. It's a core building block of programming. Once you master lists, you have a solid foundation for pretty much everything else you're going to do in Python. Because when you think about it, so much of programming is just organizing and managing collections of data.
So, we've built the shelf, we've learned the rules, and we've organized our first set of items. Now, the only real question left is, what are you going to build with it? A list of high scores for a game? A shopping list for a recipe app? The possibilities are absolutely endless.